Hello, welcome to a brief introduction of business-driven design. So why do we call it business-driven design instead of things like you might be used to hearing like UI, UX design or user-centered design or human-centered design? It's not because those things aren't valid, they very much are. It's because I think they've now in the design community begun to represent um, a divergence from what we're really trying to do, which is to add economic value for our clients and our users. And so we've decided that in that spirit, we want to refer to what we're doing as business driven design because our focus is always on business outcomes and not on outputs, not on feature functionality, but on delivering business outcomes. So what do I mean by business outcomes and economic value? So we're talking about, your basic things, right? Top line impact and or bottom line impact for a client. So top line would be um, increasing speed to market. So you can accelerate time to value. You can capture new revenue more quickly. You can design better solutions, which increase the odds of delighting the customer, both internally and externally. So top line, we're generally talking about driving new revenue by getting to market more quickly and iterating on a solution until it really hits the mark with users. Um, on a bottom line perspective, we're talking about things like reducing costs, right? So business driven design is all about reducing our spend up front in the interest of getting something in the hands of users and iterating through it again till we get to that point where there's product market fit. It's also about de-risking investment. As opposed to like in the old waterfall days where you had a situation where you'd spend a lot of time building a requirements document, and then you'd spend even more time, months, sometimes years, actually building a product until you get it in the hands of users to see if they even want it, if it even has value. And that time, as time elapses, the investment that the business has in that product, um, the risk continues to increase. So our goal is to do the opposite, is to de-risk that by getting to market quickly. Lastly on here, I'm not going to talk about it, is the benefit of energizing employees, and please visit our blog. It's linked here and you'll get access to this deck, a blog written by a former employee who just basically talked about, hey, how empowering it is to be involved in the product design and development process from the beginning, working with business stakeholders, as opposed to as a designer sort of being told further downstream, hey, go build this screen. So that's when we talk about business driven design, we're talking primarily about these items. This is just a graphical way of depicting what I just told you, basically. So, the benefit of failing fast or early on in the process, it saves time and money. Um, and I'm happy to describe and go into how to talk about this graph. But basically, it shows it there in blue. You've got the number of possible design alternatives. The cost of change is relatively low, very low at the beginning. It increases, cost of change increases as you get further into development and deployment, meaning as you get this in the hands of users and the things built, you've got a lot of technology infrastructure. All of a sudden, that change becomes huge. Whereas, again, if we focus at the beginning of this process, where we've got a lot of design alternatives, but not a whole lot invested from a development perspective, we can change quickly and react with the market. Our process is very simple. It's a three-step process. You've got scope, you've got research, and you've got design. I won't go into what the sort of the details of that double diamond. You probably have heard us talk about that. The double diamond is a classic and tried and true and proven method for executing design thinking. And I haven't talked specifically about design thinking here yet. Design thinking is a component of business-driven design. It is not the only thing. For example, scope, which is a little, I say upstream, right to the left in this process, it kind of bleeds into sales, right? It's important for design to be involved there to really get a sense of what is the problem area generally that we're trying to go after. But in the simplest terms, it is this three-step process to execute business-driven design. On the right of this would be sort of the delivery, which is the agile iterative development. And quickly moving along here, that three-step process that we just talked about briefly, it does not require a whole lot of time investment from a clock time perspective. So when you talk about business stakeholders and getting them involved in the workshops that are inherent in that process, it's maybe 6 to 8 hours, maybe 10 hours of an investment spread out over a few days. When you talk about users that we interview, we're talking about maybe 3 to 5 hours total between the initial user interview and then at the end when we have a prototype actually doing some usability testing with them. So not a whole lot of time really, and then other folks are sort of peppered in there. Now the calendar time though, it depends on coordinating schedules. So when you hear about these design engagements kind of spanning multiple weeks, it's typically because, hey, if we've got 10 to 15 business stakeholders involved, we have to coordinate their time and they don't typically have a ton of time. So trying to find an hour or 2 or 3 where we can get them all together at the same time is tough. So again, little clock time, that's the thing to remember here from an actual sitting in a workshop perspective or being interviewed as a user, a little bit longer time sometimes with a calendar to get schedules coordinated. Lastly, I'll just share with you that this is our Mindset UX design team. It's growing. It's full of talented people. And our mission is to create extraordinary experiences for our customers that deliver measurable business outcomes. So again, we come back to delivering business value as our primary driver. Thanks for your time and look forward to talking to you in future videos and in person.